Well, when our saga left off, I was feeling really good about getting to 2200 soon. I had just hit an all time high of 2176 rapid, and it seems like the skies were only getting bluer, but that all changed. I actually tumbled about 100 points and stabilized at 2079. So, this video is going to be sort of a curated selection of positions from my losing games where the game could have gone one way or another. I ended up making the wrong decision, but you, the viewer, can make the right one, correct the record, and avenge me and turn these games around, or at least keep the fight going a little bit longer. So, let's dive in. Okay, so this is the first game. As you can see, I am a pawn up, but the problem is my rook is sort of trapped in the corner and unable to free itself. My opponent cleverly boxed it in with his bishop as soon as I took a pawn here, and now I need to find a way to convert my pawn up advantage and break through in the endgame. What would you play? I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so the correct move is what I played, but I did not play the correct follow-up. So the thematic idea is that sometimes you need to give up a pawn in order to break apart your enemy's pawn chains and free up your pieces for more movement. So this is the move. If they take it with the bishop, then we can take this pawn with our rook, and our rook is loose, and we're still up a pawn. Things are looking great. If they take with the pawn, well, my idea was this, that we would take with the bishop, and this bishop is trapped and we're going to win it. Now, I did see that he had this move, pushing the pawn to b5, hitting me with check, and opening up a space for his bishop when I moved. What I missed was that I can't take the pawn because he has another check here, and it starts to just get kind of dicey here. Going here would be a bad idea, then he can check me again. I could apparently have just sidestepped and everything would have been fine, so that's what I should have done. But that wasn't even the right idea. The right idea was to then throw my other pawn forward. And again, he doesn't want to take with a rook, give up the rook for a bishop, but he can't take with the pawn, so then I take that. So I believe the idea would just be, he makes some random move, loses king, and then you just kind of break through and have a protected pawn here on the second ring. So that was our game one. I screwed it up. I played this move, he pushed the pawn, and I took, and I ended up losing the game after this move here. So, don't be like me. Round one. This game got a little bit crazy after my opponent saw a tactic that I missed, where he basically gave up his knight, but I couldn't take it because he has a sacrifice here. Now, I did miss it, but it turns out that it doesn't entirely not work for me because once I take it, yes, he wins the queen, but I have this move, rook to b1, which is what I played, and apparently he can, move his king here, and then I just win the bishop, and I have 3 pieces for a queen, so I'm technically an advantage up. He did not move his king away, he dropped his rook back. I traded, same idea. I took the bishop, he gives this check, he hits my bishop once, and this is the position I wanted to show you. Basically, we have 11 points of material versus the queen, and a few pawns on the board, but one of them is about to fall, the other 2 are going to be fragmented, and my pieces are all sort of boxed up in this corner, not coordinated. I need to find a way to get them activated, and to stop his pawns on this side from stampeding across the board and getting promoted. How would you go about doing this? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it, starting now. So, you have to just come to terms with the idea that this pawn is going to fall, and probably this one is going to as well. The best move was to drop the bishop back to d1, because after they take this, you can go to b6. You are threatening to take this pawn here with the rook. You're protecting your a pawn most importantly. Yes, they will win this one. Between your knight and the rook, eventually you'll be able to stop this pawn, which is the only real threat. and you'll have enough counterplay to stabilize, and you probably should be winning. So I instead brought my bishop back here, which is just slow and doesn't really accomplish anything. I think I wanted to get out to this and threaten the same move, but I think I was just scared of putting it on d1 because it just seemed like it was in danger of, I don't know, maybe I was scared of this queen move, even though my rook is protected. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't be like me. Let's go to the next game. In this position, our opponent is up a pawn, but it's our move, and you have one move that can give yourself a advantage for the endgame that will make it much easier to do what you need to do and convert the position. What would you do? Go ahead. This one is not too hard. Maybe you found it. The idea was you needed to give a check on g5 for the simple reason that the king is forced back onto the 8th rank, and now this rook is just going to be locked away. It's going to be very difficult for your opponent to free it and get active for the endgame, so you will essentially be playing piece up. That's not what I did. I went bishop back, and honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. This just gave him time to free his rook, and the game turned against me, and I lost. So, this was Don't Be Like Me, round 3. Let's take a look at the next game. This is a fun one. My opponent... This was a complicated endgame here. I screwed up a couple times. Here, I needed to... a couple positions earlier. He threatened my knight, and I moved it out because I was hoping to get it rerouted here, and threaten this pawn. If I could give him a check, I'm gonna do that. So that was my plan, but moving this turned out to be sort of a critical mistake because it gave my opponent this move, which forces me back here. Now he ended up going back, which was a blunder, but he realized his mistake and went back here. And once he's in this position, my position is just very limited, and he starts to have threats along the 8th rank of doubling the rooks and checking me here with the bishop blocking both escape squares. So I gave this check and I took this pawn, continuing my hubris, my route of ultimate defeat, common theme in this video. So he dropped back to the 8th rank. I saw that he was threatening to mate me. I moved my rook to make an escape square. He checks me. I moved here. He checks me. And I moved here. He threatened my knight, which was savvy, and I think he wanted to win this pawn, or that was my only worry at the time. So I protected the knight instead of moving it. That was another mistake. Now, he checks me, and this is the critical position. What would you do in this position? Go ahead. So the correct move is to step back to e5 here. Now, I didn't want to do this because it just looked scary, and I thought I was going to get checkmated here with the pawn blocking these squares. The bishop would drop back here. This looks really, really bad. Now, apparently, you can just go here and avoid checks that way, but I thought it would be a good idea instead to go here, and I thought, what's the big deal? Yes, he can do this, but, you know, what does it accomplish, right? I have it protected. Well, the theme here is the overworked piece. This rook is overworked, protecting this rook and the knight, thanks to our opponent's previous move threatening the knight. Good foresight there. And yeah, he took the rook, I took back, and yeah, I think I resigned there. So, let's go on to the next game. So, this was a game where I had lost my queen somehow, I don't remember how, and in spite of that, I had managed to sort of stabilize the position in a strangely resilient way, and I thought I was even potentially having some counter-attacking chances. I had the bishop pair, I still had both my rooks, and his king is kind of exposed, so I had gotten my rook onto the 1st rank, and I was hoping to, you know, maybe get my other rook over and start checking him, something like that. And in the previous move, he moved his queen here and was hitting the rook. And this one is honestly not a question of what what not to do. My move was just total garbage. I don't even know what I was thinking. I just blundered and moved it here. I think I was just wanting to give my bishop more flexibility. Yeah, I think I probably moved it here with fantasies of going to a4 and winning one of these rooks. The point is, moving the rook here was the wrong move. What you needed to do here was just drop your other rook back to the 8th rank. This is not a super sexy one, but the thematic idea is just when you're in a losing position, you start to claw your way back. Sometimes you can trick yourself into thinking that you are now on the attack, and the reality is you always need to be very careful about protecting your position and knowing when the tide's turned against you and you need to shift back to defense, at least temporarily. This was one of those moments. Game went against me. Let's go to the next one. Don't be like me. Round 5, round 6. Let's take a look at the next one. We are, this is a drawn-in game, and I had sort of walked my rook across the board, checking my opponent's king. I checked him here, and he went to this square. I checked him again. He went here. I checked him, and he went back to b7. And here, can you find the correct move? There was only one right move, and it's a deceptively simple one. It was simply dropping the rook to c5, hitting this pawn, and there is no way to protect it. He can advance it, but then I come here, and his king can't really move. If his king moves, then I'm just going to probably do this and win this pawn, and then win that pawn, and win the game. So king can't move, rook can't really do anything either, then I just take the pawn. So I just thought that this pawn was not vulnerable, and the theme here is don't rush through an endgame, and don't assume that your opponent is better at endgames than you are, because they're just as likely to blunder or make a mistake, and in this case that's exactly what happened. He needed to go up the board to keep me from putting my rook on c5. So don't be like me. Round 6. Let's take a look at the next one. So this is a fun one. My opponent just checked me, and I need to figure out what I want to do. Now, this was actually a little trap that I had set, and I thought I was being really clever because I provoked this check by pushing my pawn on my previous move, knowing that he could check me, and it would be very tempting to check me. It kind of just looks good, and when he did, then I could drop my bishop back here, hitting the queen, and the queen has no way to protect the knight here, because if it goes here, then I have this pawn move. Now, what is the problem with this move? Can you tell? Yeah, the problem is that if he takes his pawn, I win his knight, which seems great, except for the follow-up. He has this rook to d7 move, hitting my queen, and if I move my queen, he takes my g-pawn with check, and then I have to go to h8, and then he's just going to win the game with a revealed check. So, brutal stuff. Now, I did find that I had this move here, which I thought solved things, because, yeah, he can win my queen, but I win his queen. I forgot that he still has this check. I don't have to go to h8 and get windmilled, but I do go to f8, and now he just wins my bishop. And yeah, I worked it. That's another loss. Don't be like me. Don't be too tricky with tactics. Always follow through to the end of the line. Make sure you're not hanging a piece. Let's take a look at game 8. Okay, this is going to be a don't be like me double whammy. Now, this is, if you play the Smith-Morra, you probably recognize positions like this. It's sort of a thematic knight sacrifice that then lets you get your pawn pushed to d6, winning material back. Now, this piece is protected. He could take the bishop. Now, so this is the position. What would you do in this position? You can see that I have a big advantage. Go ahead. So what you don't want to do is take this bishop, which seems like the most obvious move, but that completely loses your advantage. And the trick here is that you just want to take your time and you want to play e1. Bishop's still pinned, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And there's sort of a little trap here where they might think, okay, I'm going to lose that bishop, but you know what? I don't have to lose it with check. I can at least castle, right? What's wrong with that? Well, now you take it and you're winning another piece because you're forking the rook and the queen. So they will try to do, you know, something else here. But now you can just take this and they have to go here, and now you can win one of these knights. You know, it's just sort of a dominating position. So very good stuff. So that was part 1. Now the game goes on, and what would you do in this position? This was the second part. So if you'll notice, you'll see that our opponent is still 3 points up. But we do have one major advantage, which is that his king is stuck in the middle, sort of keeping his rook out of the game for now, and there's a pawn on the 7th rank holding him down, and if we could somehow get our knight active, we could be potentially threatening a checkmate if we can get it to d6. So the correct move here is just to move the knight out, offer the queen trade, and we don't care if he takes the bishop because, as mentioned before, we have this mate and he has to give up the queen for the 2 pieces. So that would win our material back, and even though it's even at this point, it's totally choking him off from any sort of counterplay. So that would have been the move. Instead, I tried to keep my queen on the board and protect my bishop, and this allowed him a little nasty little sneaky little move here, which breaks the connection with the bishop and the rook and is going to let him capture the pawn, and the game goes on to be a loss for me. So this was Don't Be Like Me, capitalize on your advantages. Let's take a look at the next one. This is round 9 of Don't Be Like Me. You're not being like me, are you? Don't do it. So what would you do in this position? So probably the first thing you notice is that the queen is hitting this knight here, and you probably want to save it. So the correct move here, and this is not what I played, is pawn to c5 here. Now this protects your knight with your queen. The pawn is protected by this knight, but the real threat here is that you are going to trap the queen on the next move if he does something silly like castle. This is a trapped queen, if ever I've seen one. But I actually had a different idea, which is interesting, but I did not capitalize on. So what I played here was queen to d3, and technically tied, as you see. And my idea was that I would play boldly, and yes, I would be giving up my knight here, but my opponent would not be able to castle. And if I could get my pieces active quickly, I thought, well, maybe something could come together here. So he took the knight as offered, and that was a mistake, because apparently my instinct was right, my intuition was right, that there was something in this position that would have been great for me. Did I find it? No, I did not find it. What I played was bishop here, threatening this pawn, and trying to get, an attack here. Now the correct move, and this is just a cool line, so I just want to show you. The correct move was here, which looks like it walks into a pin. And it does. It looks that way because it does. But the idea is, you move here, threatening checkmate on d1 with the queen. And the more tempting move is this. Now you move your rook here, also threatening checkmate on d1. The knight guards the f2 square to prevent the king from escaping. So the queen goes to a4 to protect this mate. Now you give up your bishop here, and after they take back, then you go knight to c5, hitting the queen, and the queen is no longer able to protect this square. So she moves here. Now you move your queen to c2, resisting the urge to throw in a check here and win this rook, because you are now threatening mate once again. If you can bring your rook to d1, the only way to block it is to drop their bishop forward. Now you just take it, you give up the knight because you're going to walk the queen across the board, walk the king across the board, excuse me, and then they eventually have to come back, and then you win with your queen on e2. So that would have been a beautiful force line had I found it. Don't be like me, find the beautiful force line. Let's take a look at the last game. So this one is not really a what would you do, but more like what should you not do. Absolutely, which is what I did. So I'll give you a few seconds to look at this position and then decide what not to do here. So, if you are like me, you saw that they are threatening to check me on a8 with the rook, and I was very scared of this check because I saw that the only move I would have would be to go into d7, fall into a revealed check from the other rook, and that looks like it could just get very nasty, right? He drops back here, where am I going to go, you know? So I decided to throw my pawn forward here, thinking I'll at least give myself an escape square here. Still looks terrible, still, you know, drastically losing, but the bar goes from +1 to +3.69, so clearly the wrong move, and I'll show you why. They don't even give the check. What they do is bring their rook to a7, threatening my bishop, and all I can do is protect it. Now they have this very sneaky move, pawn to e6, which my opponent found, which was impressive. And the idea is that with this pawn, they're stopping all my king's escape squares. Now they're threatening mate, but if I take that pawn, then they take my rook with their bishop through this revealed attack that they just created. So beautiful idea, beautifully executed by our opponent. And that was the last round of Don't Be Like Me for today. So there you have it. I am humbled before God and the internet, and these are my most recent failures, but they won't be my last ones. The good news is that I did manage to stabilize, and I climbed my way out of the depths of despair. I think I'm like 21-16 right now, so things are looking up. I've actually played some pretty strong chess the last few days, and I'm going to do a part 2 of this video where I show you some of my best moves from those games where I ended up winning, and see if you can figure out the winning ideas that I found. So if you were on tilt like I was for the last couple weeks, don't worry, it's going to get better. We're going to get better together, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe. This is a new channel, so any support you are willing to give will be great. And if you saw any ideas that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to comment and let me know. So thanks for watching. Hope you have a great week.